You probably think about forecasting your conversions as a series of funnels. And that's great because your business is a series of inputs and outputs. But still, when your board asks why you've been consistently missing your targets, you're not able to really satisfy their questions. You can't explain it. You don't know if it's a volume problem, is it a conversion problem, is it a timing problem? And as a result, you lose credibility because as a data leader, your numbers just aren't as trustworthy as they need to be. You might blame it on seasonality or the board having too high of expectations or the product team not knowing what they're doing. But what if I told you that the way that you're modeling funnel conversion is the real reason that you're consistently missing your targets? Let's take a simple example. Let's say you're trying to model new customers over 10 periods. You think that over those 10 periods, you can get 5,000 new leads. You think that those new leads are going to convert at 20%. So after those 10 periods, 5,000 new leads, 20% conversion, how many new customers should you have? If you said 1,000, you really need to watch to the end of this video because that's only true if 100% of those leads that become customers the exact same period that they became leads. And if you're in the SaaS world, you know that that's not true. In all likelihood, you may get 20% of those leads to convert in that initial period. And then let's just say that they then drag out over the next 6. In this case, it's not 1,000. You're actually only going to get 720 new customers. So that means you are overestimating. By saying 1,000, you're overestimating the amount of new customers you're going to get by 40% right off the bat. So what's the problem? You failed to take time into account. This single addition of time to value, of time to conversion, has fundamentally transformed how I forecast. It gets me more buy-in at the beginning. It's a clearer vision for people to understand. It's more accurate. And when inevitably it is, off from reality, I'm able to drill down to a much finer degree of detail to understand exactly where it's wrong. So I don't have to spend time focusing on things that are not the problem. I can focus on the real problem and address it as quickly as possible. So I'm going to show you this simple framework with this tool that I've built that enables me to forecast more effectively for the venture-backed SaaS companies that I tend to work with. And this is available, and I would love for you to follow along as I'm walking through this. So let's go back to this example that we had just talked about together. Here we have 3 charts: volume, value, and time to value. Let's talk about volume as if it means lead volume, value for conversion value, so converting from leads to customers, and then time to value is going to represent how long it actually takes for those leads that convert to customers, how long it takes them to do that. So in our example, we said we were going to get 5,000 leads in 10 periods. Let's assume that we meant a flat 500 in each period. So we can see here, that means 500 units of lead volume in this case added in period 1, and that maintains throughout. Each of those periods are going to be multiplied by a conversion value of 20%. And when we say that 100% of that output is achieved by the end of, in this case, period 0, you can see that cumulatively, yes, indeed, we do reach 1,000 customers. But when we take this time to value and we say, oh, maybe we don't get 100% right away, maybe we only get 20% right away. And the rest of them come through where we have to wait until the end of period 6 to get 100% of the output. Now look, in this output chart here, we get 720 total. But okay, how does that work? Are we eventually going to get the 1,000? Yes. But here you see we're only looking at period less than or equal to 10. If we extend this, look how far we have to extend. We have to extend all the way to period 16 in order to get the full conversion. So that means we have to wait 50% longer, more than 50% longer than we had originally modeled. So coming back to just at period 10 though, really, what I want you to do is to be able to treat the volume, whether it's lead volume or new customer volume or whatever it is, that value, that conversion value that we're multiplying it against, and then the time to value as 3 distinct assumptions. And when we can do that, we can actually change those assumptions and see how that impacts the entire forecast. Let's say we have in period 3 an event. So how could that impact this graph? Well, perhaps in period 3, we are going to get double the amount of leads that we normally get. How does that impact the total numbers? As you can see, as I drag this number from baseline to 1,000, our output has shifted from 720 to 820. But it did that by changing only that third row of data representing the third cohort. Maybe though that event didn't actually increase a whole lot of leads. It just made the leads that we got in that particular month more valuable. Maybe the conversion doubled in that month. In this case, you can see we get the exact same output by doubling conversion. Now, of course, another way to impact the output is by changing the time to value curve. Maybe 80% of your conversions come within the first 2 periods. You can see this is another way to get an equivalent 820 output. Now, what does this all mean? Well, it means that coming together, you will be able to, just by treating volume, value, and time to value as their own assumptions, to try to develop an intuition for the shape of the line that you're envisioning and to describe that. By thinking about it as really just 3 assumptions, you can see how those 3 assumptions generate all of these underlying periodic cohort-based assumptions. And then inevitably, when your forecast doesn't match perfectly to reality, you'll be able to point to exactly where it's wrong. And that is the kind of thing that develops trust as a data leader and keeps you focused on the most important projects with your business. So I'm going to challenge you to put your simple funnel-based calculations into this tool. Try to incorporate time to value. See how different the output that you get here is from the number that you gave to your board. Again, these are simple examples, but understanding volume, value, and time to value is at the foundation of being able to clearly articulate a vision for the future. And if you're wondering how volume, value, and time to value fits into a broader framework of how to understand your business, connecting it to leads, customers, revenue, and cost, check out my video on the minimal data modeling.